Alright guys, today we're doing something that I've never actually done before, and that is we're going to do our first mod for an Arcade1up machine. Now I've never actually done this before. I was never really big into modding because I never really had a reason to, but recently I started thinking like I should start modding these systems more pertaining to what I want them to actually do in the room. As you guys know, I have a big 32-inch Rec Room Masters main machine, so I wanted all these other machines to have a purpose to fit in the arcade room. Since I don't have unlimited room, they have to do something different than, or give me a different experience than that original Rec Room Masters 32-inch screen that already plays all the games. So today we're starting off with my Marvel vs. Superheroes limited edition machine. And this is actually the outlier in exactly what I just said, because this one actually doesn't serve a purpose, because I could technically play these games just fine on the Rec Room Masters machine, but I wanted something in the room that fit with the Marvel, because I have a lot of Marvel collectibles and stuff, and I wanted it to fit perfectly, and this was the perfect theme for it. And also I wanted one fighter's cabinet. You know, you can't have an arcade room without at least your favorite fighting game, and that is the Marvel vs. Capcom series for me, which is why I originally got this cabinet, and it fits perfectly with the theme. So this is the outlier in the conversation we just had, but just to give you guys an idea where my head is at, because of that, I actually wanted to forgo into modding this thing for the first time. And we're going to do it with a Pi 4 today. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a walkthrough. It's not a one-for-one tutorial, but a little bit of a walkthrough of what the process was like, some of the issues that I ran with through it, to give you guys an idea, and then show you guys the finished product of what that looks like if you guys decide to do it as well. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so this is my Marvel Superheroes cabinet. We're going to be modding this. This is going to be my first modding attempt of any Arcade1up machine. This is the first time I'm going to be modding a machine of theirs. And I know that you guys are looking at this and you're like, oh, this is the limited edition. Well, everything I do in this mod here today is going to be, you know, something that can easily be reversed. You guys see that here at the end. So we're not going to be doing anything like cutting holes into the actual wood or anything. And you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm not going to revert back to the PCB anytime I wanted to, if for some reason I wanted to. But I wanted to add basically all the fighters. And this one, I wanted this to be a fighter's cabinet. So like when people came over and they wanted to play fighters, 2D fighters, this is the machine that would go to. It'd be the Marvel Superheroes. So all the Marvel games will be on here, of course, and then all the 2D fighters will be on here, you know, basically. And I'm going to be running this with a Pi 4. We're going to hook this all up. You can see we have some speakers there. We got the Logitech Z313 speakers. We got a bunch of the PCB boards that you need and stuff like that. You know, we got a bunch of things that we need to get this thing going. So I'm going to take this project on. I'm going to change this all out, and then we'll come back and I'll show you guys exactly what I did, what I modded, and show you guys the finished project. So let's go ahead and do it now. All right, guys, just to give you guys a quick look of what I've done so far. So all I did was remove, you take the back panel off the Marvel cabinet, and the PCB is obviously sitting there. This is the new one that I put in there, but the PCB that you guys are used to seeing with Arcade1up will be sitting there. You just take the two screws out like I did, and then you unplug the two wires that are connected to it. They do take a little bit of wiggle to remove. I actually used a pair of pliers to remove the two wires, which would be this one here and this white one over here, the one with the yellow, red, and black. Those are the two wires that came from the Arcade1up PCB that you'll remove, and you'll take that out. Once I remove that, I got the PCB out of there, and then this is really, really important for those of you guys who do this. The PCB board, the replacement board that you're going to buy, to be able to connect this, that has like, you know, HDMI out and stuff like that, what you need is this board right here. But it cannot touch the monitor in any way. That's why you see me have electrical tape and stuff, because what I did it the real simple way. All I did is I put a piece of cardboard in the back, you know, regular cardboard from one of the boxes that you know, even get with this thing. Tape it to the back of the monitor, put the electrical tape around it so it doesn't move or anything like that, like I did. Put the PCB board with a couple of pieces of electrical tape like this one here. Like this one here that I used. You can get this double-sided tape. You use this double-sided tape to mount both this one and the other PCB board to the back. So that's all we've done so far. You know, we got the PCB board on the back of it. We removed the old PCB board that Arcade1up comes with. We plugged in the cables that we need to. We got it mounted onto the cardboard. So let's go ahead and see what's next. All right, guys, so on our next update here, what we did is a couple of things. One, if you guys look at my previous section of the video a couple of seconds before this, you'll see that there was a black cable attached right here, which I almost totally forgot about, and that's the ground wire. Really, really important wire to get this thing to work. And you can see the ground wire is now sitting right here. This is the black cable. I know it's hard to see in there, but this is the cable. So when you get your LCD board, this LCD board that I have connected, it'll come with a little bag with a screw and a nut. And what you do is, all you do is you unplug that ground wire from here. It's on a screw. You just unscrew it. You put the screw from the opposite side of the board. You put the screw in there. You put the ground wire on the screw, and then you use the nut to just hold the ground wire in place. That's really important, or else, of course, this isn't going to get any power correctly. So got that attached to it, so that's all done, really simple. And then we got the Pi over here. We got the Pi 4. I put it up with some sticky tape over here that is ready to go. So we got that plugged in. We plugged in the HDMI cable. We're about to plug in the power cord from the power cord that goes from the back of the board here that you usually have on your Arcade1up. That gets attached right here. So we're going to plug that in now, and then we're going to turn this on with our surge protector here as a test to make sure that the LCD board gets a green light, which I would recommend you do so you don't waste your time. Make sure the LCD board turns on. Make sure you see your screen and see if you at least see the Pi working. Of course, your controls aren't going to work because we haven't gotten that far yet, but you should at least see it on the screen. So let's go ahead if we see that. All right, guys, here's another quick update on where we're at now. You can see that there is a green light on the LCD control board, and the Pi is turned on. Now, here is something that confused me for like 15 minutes, right? I had this all plugged in, and the green light was on the LCD board. And then I turned around, and the screen on the Arcade1up was just white. It didn't say no signal or anything. It didn't say the Pi was doing anything. It just had a white flash on it, as if there was power to it, but it wasn't actually getting any signal. Even though this light on the LCD board was green. And when I started going down the rabbit hole for 5 minutes and looking on the internet for people who were experiencing this problem, they were like, oh, it's probably your LCD board is probably the wrong model. You probably got to switch it out, or it might be a bad board, all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's possible, but like, there's no way that it's that for me. Like, am I that unlucky that I got a bad board? So, found out that this cable right here, the main board cable, the one that was hard that I had to pry out with the pliers that's connected to the top there with the red, blue, and white cables. I don't know how easily you guys can see that. Let me see if I can get a better light to shine on it. There we go. So you see this cable right here? The main board, the one that has like 20 pins on it. Like I said, the blue and the red and the white. So that one there, what happened is that I had it backwards. So you need to plug this in correctly, because or else you'll get that white flash. So if you plug it in incorrectly, it's not going to do anything wrong. But if you see a white flash on your screen, this is the monitor cable from the Arcade1up machine, and I guarantee you probably just have it backwards. And I just saved myself a lot of headache. Like, luckily, I was only rumbling around for like 5 minutes. And didn't go down the rabbit hole of something being wrong with the Pi or the LCD board. But as you can see, we already have the screen here. It's looking fantastic. I already love the look of that 4x3 screen that we're looking at. Of course, we have much more to do. We know that it works now. So we're going to safely turn the Pi off with my keyboard that I have. The keyboard that I use for this thing is this $20 keyboard that it seems like a lot of people use with the Pi. So you can just control it with this. So if I set this down for a minute and I start moving around, you can see that it starts moving. So you can see that we do have the screen working here. And this looks fantastic. I'm already excited because I love how this looks on the screen already. Has the comic book art style look that matches perfect with this cabinet. But all we're going to do here is we're obviously going to shut this thing down correctly. So the way you shut it down correctly is you go down here and you just hit quit. Oops, I just accidentally hit the wrong button. We're just going to go down and hit quit. And we're just going to shut the system down so it gets shut down correctly, because now, of course, now that we have the Pi and all that hooked up, we're all set back here. But of course, now we got to do the actual control panel. So that's where we got to hook up the LCD board and stuff. So it's time for that. So let's see how that goes and how simple this works. All right, guys. So here is the second part. We got the controller board now. So we just unscrewed the back panel there from the controller board. Just the 5 screws that were sitting on it, or 6 screws that were on it. And this was revealed. What we had to do is we had to unplug all of these little plugs from this, and this was really a pain because I don't know if you guys can tell in the video, but there's these little yellow glue spots on them, but all of these were glued down, so that wasn't fun. So what I had to do was I had to get some pliers and easily and gently tug on these left and right and get them all off of there. So that's what I did. I got them all off of there, and then we connected them over to the new controller boards that right here. We got one on the left and one on the right for the right controller buttons, and then the left controller button. So we got that all plugged in. The way that you hook these wires up doesn't really matter. They just have to be the same on both sides. So how I did it is, like, for example, the green and the green are together back and forth. So the green on this side have to be together back and forth. So the order doesn't matter when you start, but they do need to be the same on both sides. And then the controller kit also comes with the joystick cable that's sitting right here. So you use the included cable to unplug what was in the joystick, plug this white cable in from the joystick to there on the side of the controller board where it plugs in. Do the same on the other side, and that's it. Once you got these all wired up and plugged in, that portion of connecting it is all set. Then what we need to do is wire these two buttons that we have. We have these two buttons here. We have the player 1 button, and then we also have the coin button that we need. So we do need a couple of extra buttons. Now, I'm not going to drill into this because this is a limited edition, and I didn't want to make any holes if I didn't need to. So instead what we're doing is we got a custom J panel that we're going to install next, where these buttons actually go into, and we'll just plug it into the the J panel already has the holes for it. You just put it in there, and then you're all set. So we're gonna take a look at that right now so you guys can see what I'm referring to as far as the J panel and how that looks, and get these two extra buttons plugged in. And once we have these two extra buttons plugged in, we'll come back and I'll show you guys what that looks like. All right, guys, as you can see, we have the custom J panel now installed. You can see it right here at the bottom. So this is pre-cut, and I didn't have to do anything. I just got this from one of the arcade websites that does modding, and they just sell this panel. You just replace your J panel with these three holes. You add the buttons that I added, the first player button and the coin button. Once you get that in there, and then you just slot it right into the J panel. We connected all the wires that I showed you before. We put this back on, and that should be all the buttons we need to get this going. Now the next thing we need to do is to get sound working. So I'm going to install these speakers that we have here, the Z313. Technically you don't need to use the stock speakers if you don't want to. You can use those speakers instead, or you can just use a sub. You do it either way. You can either use the sub and use the speakers that come in that box that you paid for, or you can just use the sub which you need to connect the speakers that already came with this arcade unit. So we'll take a look at that, and let's see what we got. All right, guys, here we are with the Marvel arcade machine that is now finally complete. I had some struggles here at the end because you see this coin button here at the bottom, this one on the left. Unfortunately, that coin button on the left decided to not work. And it took me a while to figure out that it was the actual button, because I figured it was probably, something I did wrong. I checked the connections and stuff. Eventually found out, because I had a spare button, that was it was a broken button. So I had to wait for Amazon to send me a replacement the next day to finally finish this, but it is here now. It is completely finished. And I think it looks really, really good. You guys can see here what my main menu here looks like. It looks pretty good. And has this comic book art style, which looks fantastic and matches the art style of this cabinet so well. And I'm really, really happy with how this actually looks. It looks really, really good. And like I said, everything that's in here, since this is a fighter's cabinet, that's what I wanted to do. There's only fighting games on here. So for example, if I were to click on Super Nintendo, it's only going to show you games that are either fighters or beat 'em ups. Those are the two collections that I decided to put on here, because beat 'em up kind of in my head goes hand in hand with fighters. So beat 'em ups and fighters are usually what you're going to find here, that I have on here. And I have some collections in here that gear towards that. So I created some custom collections here that have beat 'em ups and Konamis and stuff like that. Wrestling, superhero games, stuff like that match the theme of this cabinet. And have my favorites list is combined with all the best of the MAME games that are on here, or all the best, like, this is the best Marvel game, or the best Mortal Kombat game, you know, the best Street Fighter game, you know, things like that. So when people come over, they can just come into this favorites list and pick, you know, hey, I want to play the best Mortal Kombat. There it is. Hey, I want to play, you know, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. There it is. I want to play, you know, the best Fatal Fury game. There it is, kind of thing. So this turned out really, really well. I'm really happy with how well this looked and how everything is working. I think it was well worth the mod on this, and I'm really, really happy with it. So let's go ahead and sit down at the table and let's talk about all this that we did. Alright guys, so that was my adventure in modding for the first time an Arcade1up machine. Overall, it actually isn't that hard at all. I unfortunately got stuck with a button, as you guys saw, it didn't actually work. When I actually plugged it in and I was doing some troubleshooting until I finally realized that the button was just dead. I ordered a replacement from Amazon, popped that button in, and then I was good to go. And then of course that little cable there that, you know, I've seen a lot of comments online when I was doing my research like, oh, I plugged everything in and I have just a white screen and it doesn't say anything, like there's no input, even though it's not saying no signal, it just has like a white haze on the screen. And, you know, it's just a cable that was backwards. That main cable that I showed you guys had to be turned around. You need to make sure the red wires are on the left side of the board. I had it, you know, flipped the other way, or else you're going to get that signal issue. So once I switched that, you know, everything else went smoothly. So it was really, really cool. So I'm really, really happy with how this mod actually turned out and how easy it was to do. I love the Pi image that I'm using. I'm loving how everything's working. All the games that I've tested so far in this Wolf and Zoe, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Supreme Image has worked. All the 2D fighters are working with no issues. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 has worked with no issues on the Sega Naomi. You know, I played that and having a lot of fun with that. Tried some of the fighters on the PlayStation 1. Those all work as well. Of course, some of the fighters that are sitting on, you know, some of the later systems like the Dreamcast and stuff that need triggers, you're going to have to actually plug in some controllers for the 360 and stuff if you want to use those fighters to the fullest capability. But overall, all the systems work and all the games that I showed you guys work, and I'm really, really happy with it. So much so that I started going into that rabbit hole of what I'm going to mod next. And after a lot of thought before I ended this video, I am going to be modding the NBA Jam cabinet. Now, this was a hard choice for me because my NBA Jam cabinet, of course, has online play. And I've had the NBA Jam cabinet for the last 6 months, ever since it released, however long it's been. And I was thinking about it and I was like, all right, well, I haven't played the online ever since I got the machine. I played NBA Jam a few times online when I got the machine and when I was doing the review, but I haven't really gone into that room and said, hey, I want to play some NBA Jam today online. It's not really what I do. So after thinking about that, I was like, what am I going to get more use out of it? Is it going to be when people come over and, you know, actually want to do 4-player gaming? And after I started going down that route, I was like, yeah, you know, I should mod this thing. And I'm going to mod it a little bit differently so I can revert back if I want to. So usually when it comes to an NBA Jam cabinet, you have to modify the actual control board. And that means that you have to drill holes into it and change the whole layout. And, you know, it would be a pain to go back to the way it was. So what I'm going to do is actually going to use a kit online, and I'll show you guys that whole process when I receive it. That is going to be a whole entire new board. So basically I'm going to take the NBA Jam cabinet controller board out. I'll save that and store it away if I ever want to revert back. And I'm going to take the new controller board with all the LED buttons that are going to be lit up and all that modified, pop that right in, keep the one that came original stock, keep it and save it, and then just do the mod and put a Pi 4 in there as well with a different image, of course, to make it different for this one, to make it look a little bit different. And this one's going to be themed with, of course, all the 4-player games and all sports games. So when someone comes over, just like the other one was all fighters, and says, you know, I want to play like a sports game and stuff, this will be the dedicated sports cabinet. And not only a dedicated sports cabinet, but also, more importantly, the main reason I'm doing it is the 4-player games. So I thought playing the 4-player games would be more important on this cabinet than it would be to keep the online play that I wasn't really using in the last few months at all. And I think when people come over and they start being able to come over after COVID is over, as we go through this, it's going to be more important for me to have a 4-player machine, because that's technically what NBA Jam is giving me the most that I can't get with my Retro Masters machine, and that is a 4-player machine. And since I don't have a limited room and I'm not going to buy every 4-player machine out there that exists, no matter what they release, NBA Jam being one of my favorite games, I decided to convert this cabinet to a 4-player. So that is going to be the next video that you guys see. I already have the Star Wars yoke being modded as well. So that one's going to be modded to play all the racers, all the flying racing and all the Star Wars games. So that would be the video after the Outrun cabinet, because that one's going to take a little bit more time and effort. You know, we have I have a lot of projects in my mind now about modding these things. When the Outrun cabinet comes in, I saw that was already modded in the community by Kong to Us, which he's fantastic. So I'll be modding that as soon as that comes in to play all the racers on it. So I can't wait to take on that project. So the only one we're not going to be modding on this channel that I currently own is Buck Hunter, because Buck Hunter doesn't actually have, that game doesn't exist on the PC side. That's exactly why I got that cabinet, because it doesn't, those specific versions, you can't play those on the on MAME or anything like that. So that cabinet won't be modded, and will stay exactly as is, because I want to be able to play those games that don't exist anywhere else. So that it will be the only cabinet in the room now that is not being modded, and I do have a couple of more machines coming in after that, depending on what I decide to do. So we'll see if those ever get modded. But for now, those are my plans, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely subscribe so you guys can see these future mods and stuff and how that process goes. And if you guys have any questions about anything you guys have seen here today, as always, leave them down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.